He's an Afghan Air Force pilot. His fiancée is pleading with Ottawa to help rescue him. He is stranded in neighboring Tajikistan after making a daring escape from Kabul as the government fell to the Taliban back in the middle of August. Murray Brewster has her story today. He's live with us in Ottawa. Murray, good to have you with us. Safia is the name of we're talking about. Have to protect her identity. Tell us a little bit about that and why we're doing so, Murray.
Well, that's right, Heather, because protecting Safia's identity is important because she has family and her fiance's family is still in Afghanistan. And CBC News has given her a pseudonym so that she could tell her story. And it's quite a compelling story. She met her fiancé in the United Arab Emirates. Before the pandemic, they carried on a long-distance relationship, and they agreed to marry in the first week of September of this year. Now, as we all know, Afghanistan's Western-backed government collapsed this past summer, and Safia was watching from here in Canada with horror. And her fiancé was a pilot with the Afghan Air Force. He was stationed at the airfield in Kabul, and he was among several dozen military flyers and ground crew who managed to get out of the country. Now, in his case, and we're also protecting his identity, by the way, they landed in Tajikistan, where they have been interned for a number of months. And Safia tried desperately and has been trying desperately over the last several weeks to get the attention of the Canadian government and get the pilots, not only her fiancé, but the other pilots out of there and on their way here to Canada, because you may or may not recall, at the end of August, we did a story on those pilots, and all those pilots asked for asylum in Canada. The answer that Safia has been given is pretty straightforward, that the pilots don't have a direct association of Canada with Canada, so therefore they don't qualify for the immigration program that the federal government announced in July. There is the larger refugee program that the federal government announced, where the Liberal government plans to bring in 40,000 Afghan refugees. But many of those programs for them are focused on social groups. And Safia has been told that her fiancé doesn't qualify. And she's extremely frustrated. And a number of other Canadians who have connections to those pilots have also been speaking out, have also been asking the government for assistance. For example, the uncle of one of the other pilots has written to the Prime Minister. And they want the Canadian government to become much more engaged and much more involved and get those pilots out.
Some members of the Afghan Air Force, Murray, were evacuated to Uzbekistan, were they not? And then onward to the United States. But these pilots in Tajikistan, what is happening specifically with them?
Well, Heather, most of the pilots in both who flew to both Uzbekistan and Tajikistan took their aircraft with them. They took their aircraft as the government was collapsing. They knew that the war was over. The pilots that were in Uzbekistan were assisted out and are now in the United States. There is a group of U.S. veterans who assisted them in getting out and getting them into the United States. But they've had a much tougher time getting pilots out of Tajikistan. Now, that's for two reasons. The first is that the Taliban have demanded the return of those pilots. It seems a moot point now because the aircraft are no longer there. But at the same time, the Tajik government is facing, I guess, pressure from Moscow is about the best word. The Russians are really not wanting the Tajik government to cooperate in any way with the United States. So they're caught kind of in a diplomatic no man's land right now.
Murray, thank you very much. Murray Brewster, live with us from Ottawa this morning. Now, if you want to read more about this, Safia, her fiancé, the push to get him out of Tajikistan online, and of course the broader issues that Murray was just referencing there, he has a piece up on our website this morning, CBCNews.ca.